What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for the final time in the 2024-25 NFL regular season, we will be going over players to watch for the Buccaneers Week 18 matchup in Tampa against the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, a ton on the line for Tampa Bay. They can clinch the NFC South for the fourth straight season, which is a franchise record. With a win on Sunday. But I am not alone today. Joining me is my CFP co-host, Mr. Rhett Matthew. Rhett, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Like you said, very lofty matchup for the Buccaneers this weekend. There is a lot on the line, and certainly going to be a lot to talk about with this one when it's all said and done. One way or the other, win, lose, or draw, a lot of questions are going to be answered, if you will.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. There's going to be a loss would make sure there's a lot more questions than answers in the offseason, heading into the offseason. But hopefully we don't have to cover that, right? Hopefully you don't get to that point. But with that being said, let's get right into the players to watch. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to talk about the Buccaneers running backs. And that's plural because I think there's a chance that all three, I said, could get some play in this game. That's Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, and Sean Tucker, who last time these two teams played, Sean Tucker had a career day, 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards, had a great day, as I believe Rachaad White was out for that game. So it was the Buck and Tuck show, basically, and he did great. So New Orleans defense wasn't a good running defense back then. It's not a good running defense right now. So they're still struggling to stop the run. And I think Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, even maybe Sean Tucker could get a lot of carries in this one and find a lot of success. And that would make things a lot more easier on the Bucs offense.
The Bucs ran for 275 plus yards the last time these two teams played. And the Saints run defense isn't getting any better since that game, as you had alluded to. Yeah, I think it's another breakout game for this running back room. Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker, would like to see him get more involved solely because of the production he had against New Orleans last time. Was in the play on that punt block last week by Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, so he's getting some valuable reps on special teams, but we know what this guy has to offer. His best game this year came against New Orleans. Would like to see it happen, but regardless, the fact that you've got 3 running backs as productive as the Bucs have had this year, they haven't had that in a decade, and even a decade ago, they only had one guy doing it all.
Yeah, yeah, it's been remarkable the turnaround that the running game has had. But let's focus again on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to talk about the guy who I think is going to have the most attention on him. Okay, number 13, Mr. Mike Evans, obviously needing only 85 yards to reach 1,000 yards for the 11th straight season. That would tie Jerry Rice's record of consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Mike Evans, there were some questions, right, on whether or not he'd get it, right? There were some times it wasn't looking great, especially when he missed those games and he came back and it wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of games, he's had some pretty big performances. So we'll see. I think the Bucs are going to make it a clear effort. Liam Cohen spoke in his press conference that everyone is well aware of what he needs to have happen. And again, I don't think they're going to. I said this on the podcast too, on the game preview show. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, go ahead and check that out. But the Bucs aren't going to put this above winning. Right, winning is still going to be the number one priority. But getting Mike Evans the 1,000 yards is going to be a pretty close second.
Yeah, and when you take into account how busted up this Saints secondary is, they're missing starters on the defensive side of the ball. It's late in the season. These guys just want to go home and be healthy for the offseason. I don't think anyone's going to risk their career trying to slow down Mike Evans on Sunday, but the Saints are definitely going to make sure to be aware of him because he does have an ability to take over games and be a favorable target for Baker Mayfield. So I think he's 5 catches away from another contract incentive of his. So, more than one incentive for him to hit this week against New Orleans. And I think the Bucs are going to make it a priority. Like you said, don't put it above winning, but I expect a healthy dose of number 13, especially early in the game. They like to get him 2 or 3 targets on the opening drive, I've noticed.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're going to see him early and often in this matchup. But let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. And we are going to be looking at, once again, the Buccaneers edge rushers because I would think, you're going to have a new but old face there, I guess you could say, as I would assume Shaq Barrett is going to play at least a little bit in this game. Now, he did speak to reporters and said, like, look, I'm not ready to play a full game or anything. That's understandable. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Shaq Barrett get a little bit of reps here in this game, pair with Yaya Diaby. Maybe Chris Braswell gets a little bit more reps. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who blocked the punt, on last Sunday against Carolina, maybe he gets a few more reps there. It wouldn't shock me if you saw Shaq Barrett there with those guys, and hopefully the Bucs edge rushers can take advantage of a New Orleans offensive line that has struggled this season.
Yeah, curious to see the shape that Shaq Barrett is in. Obviously, coming back out of retirement, you want to see how quickly he can get up to speed. But even before he had retired, the expectation was that he's a rotational guy. Maybe he's got a splash play or two per game. But for a Buccaneers pass rush, especially an outside linebacker room that has needed a splash play or two, Shaq Barrett can offer a splash play or two against the Saints. I think that's a huge win for the Buccaneers at this point in the season. Would love to see if he's got some stuff left in the tank because he made it clear he wants to play beyond this season.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool to see him make, one of those plays. It'd be a pretty cool story,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, we're gonna stick on the defensive side of the ball and talk about Zion McCollum. Now, a lot of this is because Jamel Dean, Todd Bowles said, is out, and so is Antonio Field Jr. So McCollum becomes this team's top corner now. So, and look, the Saints. Chris Olave not playing, Rashid Shaheed not playing. So like, yeah, they are down some men, right? Like it's not a full powered Saints offense, which will help. But McCollum in the second half of the season hasn't been as good as he was in the first half. The first half, he was really one of the team's best players on defense at times. And he slowed down in the second half of the season, has had some lulls there. So we'll see if he can step up this week. Like I said, Jamel Dean is out, so McCollum suddenly steps into a bigger role. I think the Buccaneers are hoping, that he can take that next step, and it'd be nice to see him in Week 18 make another play. He did have an interception the last time these two teams played, so we'll see if he can do something similar to that again in this matchup.
Yeah, and I do think he can step up this week. This is a situation that he's no doubt been in before this season. We've talked time and time again about all the injuries in the secondary, especially causing all the lineup changes back there. So I think he can take advantage of the injuries, the lack of firepower, if you will, on the offensive side of the ball for New Orleans. They still have Alvin Kamara, which isn't going to be his main target, obviously, throughout the day. But if the Bucs defense can contain Kamara, then I have no doubt that Zion McCollum can hold down his side of the field as well.
Yeah, I do think there's and look, and Kamara might not play. We'll see. Have to keep an eye on that. So the Saints offense maybe even less powered than originally thought. But we will see what happens. But let us know who you're watching out for, whether it's offense, whether it's defense, whether it's special teams. We're very curious to hear who you guys are keeping an eye on for the regular season finale. Big game, obviously, for the Buccaneers. A lot on the line here for Tampa Bay. Their season's either I mean, look, they still can make the playoffs if they lose, but most likely either their season's over or they're prepping for a wild card game in Tampa next weekend as NFC South champs. So we will see what happens. But thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And go Bucs.